Maj7 visual guitar method here again. You like my new song? Alright, so today's lesson. Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. Maybe we'll get this lesson out a little earlier, but this is our next week lesson. And this lesson is a continuation or maybe like an update of a previous lesson that we did just before the last lesson. So for this to make some sense, if you're stumbling onto this out of the blue, you may want to see what we went over on the last lesson, but it's a long lesson, and I think I can recap here really quick. So let's dive right in and see what we're doing here. So we're diving right into using arpeggios to make like modal sounds, like arpeggio, just a regular major 7 arpeggio, because when you play things, notes that link together in these kind of patterns, I think they have a cool sound to them, versus just noodling around in a scale. So let's just hear that really quick. So we're going to do something, and we'll use a D major 7 arpeggio and a D major 7 chord. I mean, you can do things like that, but you can also spell out the chord like that. Handy thing to do. Great thing to know. As a matter of fact, like my latest teaching is to just start with the chord tones, because it's not like you're wasting your time because those are the boring tones, but you want to know those are part of your scale, and they're going to give you the most consonant sounds for that chord, leaving you with the rest of the scale tones, which would be your like level 1 dissonance, or your go-to tones, your kind of call and response tones, and then the final leftover 5 notes, basically the black keys on the piano per se, will be your like super tensions that you can use in a rhythm sense to really sound outside, or bring tensions or new flavors and all kinds of things like that. So with that being said, what we were talking about specifically last week with this basic major 7 arpeggio, what we have here, it's a 5-string root version. So on our 5-string, I'm just starting at the 4th fret to put the 1 on the 5th fret, the D that we just played, D major 7, and like the diagram shows. And as it's also showed grayed out on our fretboard here. So we were ringing out a droning note and hearing this arpeggio in random places, and we were discovering that these sounds, these different emotional sounds that were coming out of this arpeggio, and the way we were holding a drone note, was creating modal tonalities. But you'll see here, I was teaching it to where there were 2 arpeggios that would work for this purpose. Like, for example, 2 that you could use a 4th apart. I'll talk about that in a second. That you could use for a Dorian sound, for an Phrygian sound, and create a Mixolydian sound, and on and on. And we went all over that in the last lesson. But I found an easier way to do all this, I think. And it's kind of funny, because once I realized it, I'm like, how did this escape me? But it really is a more sensible way to do this, and I want to show you that with today's lesson. But we'll hear it. So for example, if I got this a low E going, or let me try that here. That's got a cool sound to it, different from the way that exact same arpeggio sounded against the normal plug and play D major 7 chord. So, but right now we have a low E. And what this does, without all the big explanations, that's kind of like a Dorian sound. And if I just play like a random other one, it has its own sound, but it doesn't go together. I mean, they kind of do, because there was like a flavor change there, so I guess there was some interest there. But for example, I couldn't do this. Now that just didn't sound good because there was no method to the madness there. So anyways, if I move it up a fourth, so here's the original again, down starting on the 4th fret, A string. Now I move it up a fourth. So that means I'm going to take this 1, A string, 5th fret, the D note. I'm going to go whole step to the E, whole step to the F sharp. Then I'm going to go a half step up to the G. And you see that there's a nice comfortable relationship there. That's because those are a pair together that will, I just indicated by playing those together, I have enough notes that I've just built a scale. And that scale is against this E note. And the scale is here, actually. Dorian. With the raised 6th there. Sounds good with this one. If I play it in the right place. So there you have it. That's what we went over last weekend. But that's kind of disjointed, knowing you might play that arpeggio here, and then you're going to move up a whole fourth there. Not actually necessary. Doable, but a little cumbersome and not so necessary. So let me show you how I would do that now. And perhaps an easier way to turn these into any modal sound, because all 6 are available, and a little more easier to conceptualize. So before we do that, we're going to use a few different shapes, but it's really all the same shape, but because of the G and B string anomaly on the fretboard, the shape changes a little bit, so we want to be aware of that quick. And just go over this is your 6 string root right here. So in this example, it would be and of course, this is just a simple, very simple arpeggio from one root to the next root. In the same spot of the fretboard, you could continue it on up if you figure that all out. As a matter of fact, this on this end here would be the continuation of this mode. But for our example today, all we need to do is know the simplest shape. You can add in what you want later. A 5-string root is here, and you can see that changes the location of the 7 and 1 against the 5 there. It's a little different, but it's nothing that's too hard to know. Now the 4th string root, or the D string, would be maybe more accurate to some people. Wow, in these last 2 lessons, like my fingers, I don't know. I almost think I'm getting worse at guitar. I don't practice enough, I guess. and then our third string root or the G string root, we'll just play that anywhere. And you'll notice that we're going to go in a different direction because these are, as you see, are taking 4 strings to complete, and we don't have 4 strings anymore. So we're just going to go, for example, and we get the same, that exact same kind of sound, but up there. And all these are going to be handy to what we want to know today. So let's move on. And as always, if you are, if I'm running too fast past any of these sheets, I'm sure I'm not. I'm sure I talk forever. Then just pause the video. Of course, you know that. So now it's all about these 2 things here, as the title is going to suggest. I don't know what the title is going to be, but it's going to have something with squares in it. And these are the squares I'm talking about. The navigational squares are going to appear throughout this lesson next. If you don't know what these are, this is the way that I conceptualized the whole fretboard, the way I made it personally, totally easy to myself. Whether it works for you, hey, who knows? But I'm pretty sure people have seen this, or if it's a little alien to you, or if you're new to this channel, you may want to go back and check out some of my earlier videos on the navigation square. And they're all getting kind of old now, so I'll probably redo one of these sometime soon. But anyway, so this is the navigation square. Helps you get across the whole fretboard because, as you see here, this square with all these alien letters in it is the actual basic major scale shape, the most core shape you can pull out of all the scale shapes. It seems impossible when you haven't ever boiled it down to that. Everybody thinks there's 7 complex shapes that you have to memorize, but you can play any shape by knowing where this little shape, how it links together. And it links together as an angle, following the cursor this way. But enough on that. Can't go back to an earlier lesson. What we're going to do here is place our arpeggio. And a little later on, the placement, this 6-string root arpeggio is going to come up. So kind of keeping a little idea about where we are here. But notice that we start at the top of the square. The 7 and 1 are the, well, on your screen, I guess you would consider that the bottom, but the low E string is towards the ceiling, so I guess that's the top. But in any event, that is not where we are today. We are down here on the, what did I do here? I guess I put it, for some reason, wow, look at what I did here. You idiots. Well, we're going to have to pretend that we're, that this Aeolian scale, or shape 1 or shape whatever we're going to call it, Mr. Scale Shape 1. Let's put it down on the 5th fret, even though our diagram is showing it moved up a, wait a minute. No, I got it right. I don't know what I'm thinking today. My eyes are crossed. So yeah, we're in the key of C like we want to be. So let me get back here a bit before we go too far. So what we're dealing with is the first square that we want to know about, and we're going to relate that square to this pentatonic-based major scale shape. If you look, there's a shell of a pentatonic in there, and there's the extra notes added on that make it, give it the 2 missing notes from a pentatonic that turn it into a major scale. And many of you will know that as the, oh yeah, Mark, that's the Aeolian scale. But beginners will say, what, modes? This is Aeolian? How can it be Dorian 2? What are you talking about? So we'll just call this random shape 1 to not throw anybody off. But if you know it, based on its minor root there, the Aeolian, yeah, awesome. So anyways, that shape, when you play that, it begins to indicate this shape, but not by itself. This shape could also be in what we're going to see later down the road. In 2 more slides, we're going to see that this shape starts off the Dorian shape too. So at this point, it's not necessarily clear if I'm playing in, say, whatever root. It's not totally spelled out. Yeah. So let's spell it out with the second arpeggio shape. But some things to know here. Within our square here, you want to know this. When we want to turn this into modal music, all we need to do is ring out a drone note that this arpeggio shape is going to reflect off of, per se. So instead of, I've taught this before on the channel, that I don't teach modes as start here to this note and play only to this note, because I've never seen how it doesn't. That's technically correct if you're playing a melody line, but this doesn't. It's not soloing across your fretboard. Doesn't have anything to do with that. It's about what the background chord is being suggested. Where's the gravity? So if the bass is playing an E, then the tonal gravity is on E. And let's say we were, as we are here, in the key of C, we can see here that the E is right there, correct? A, B, C, D, E, F, G. A, B, C, D, E. All right. And there, in that, is our P box. Ew. That sounded gross. That is Phrygian. These are the modal names. So what you see in here is Aeolian, L with the stars for Locrian, which we're not going to mess with today. Ionian, Dorian again, because that is the 5-string tuning. It's the same note. Phrygian, Lydian, Mixolydian. Back to Aeolian. Now, don't get that confused with the fact that in the key of C, it just so happens that is the A note, and D is the D note. It's an odd coinky-dink there. But anyways, so you want to know this, your notes in there too. In our position that we've mounted this in today, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. In the same box. And a little something else about modal moods to just catch everybody up to speed. Major, Lydian, Ionian, Mixolydian. Lydian is lighter. Mixolydian is darker than the natural major scale Ionian. And in the same regard, Dorian is the lighter, Phrygian is the darker, Aeolian is the middle ground. So just so you know kind of your moods, what do you want to express? Do you want something a little darker, basically the most far out Egyptian, Latin, whatever kind of flavor is going to be found, say, right here. Stairway to Heaven, Sirius is going to be found there. I don't know, Dream of the Blue Turtles from Sting, I think, is Dorian. McCoy Tyner, well, you won't know that song. What is it? Now it's going to bug me. I think it's called Going Home. Beautiful. Absolutely one of my favorite jazz and McCoy Tyner songs of all time. But anyways, I digress. Lydian. Think Joe Satriani, Flying in a Blue Dream. Ionian. Lots of songs. Mixolydian. Grateful Dead. Party Time. All right. So there's an example of how modes are used in real music. And again, now, granted, modes are cool, but they're not everything at the same time. I talk a lot about modes here, but the real playing is spelling out chord changes like they do in jazz. But maybe that's just a personal favorite of mine. Modal music is really cool. Anyways, moving on. So there now we see to get to that fourth. Let's go back here really quick. So remember, this was a fourth away. Well, if you consider the note G, what's a fourth away? Straight down underneath it, the C. You're moving straight down is always moving a fourth. So if our arpeggio shapes were a fourth away, it stands to reason that if you just move one straight underneath the one you were playing, you've moved a fourth. So that it's that easy, and it corresponds. You know, all of a sudden it clicked on me. I'm like, this has got to be within the square of the major scale, and it was. So if I play these two arpeggios together, now that could have been Dorian or Aeolian, but as soon as I play this one with it, it can only fit where this square is right here, indicating that I am in this, I'm in my scale pattern. I'm in the key of C. As a matter of fact, what I wanted to say. Could be any whatever one of these tones is ringing out, could be the mode within the parent key of C, but the ultimate parent key is C. So if I was considering, you know, this, if I was ringing out a C, or maybe we'll go, that's kind of low. And I got some weird sound effects that are attached to this keyboard sound, so I just think they're cool. They're probably kind of annoying for the video, but it's just kind of cool. So if you hear some weird creaking, haunted house stuff in the background, but good for Halloween, I guess. So here we are with a C. All within the key of C, and if it sounded, if you thought, well, that wasn't too exciting, well, that's because that was basically standard major, just good balanced sound, but no real pizzazz, no modal excitement to it per se. Okay, I guess that's my new word for this lesson. Moving on here, let's assume that you get that, and so you want to consider, you know, where you're moving your second arpeggio is going to indicate the square. So, like, for example, what if I moved down and just played here? And then played this one. Well, that would be a different scale, and I know what it is, so I'm going to figure it out here. We were in F suddenly. That would be moving from C to F. And it makes sense because I moved the square exactly down, playing those two arpeggios. Now my square was down, and we're going to get to that in a little bit. We'll see that shape. But as a preliminary here, I moved straight down from C. So what's the note under C? F. All right. So, good ways to modulate here. If your song is modulating here, it's a way that you could get through the modulation with a pretty series of notes. Maybe being somewhat deceptive, if you will. Okay, so now we move on. If we want to do this again, and stay in the now we're staying in key. So if I do the same thing here, it's my next navigation square and in the key. And this indicates this shape right here, which now you may know from what we were talking about as the Dorian shape. Back down to the C first, since it was sounding like C major. Minor there. Alright, so here we are. The red square, by the way, yellow squares are part of this complete breakfast. No, Yellow squares are the past of what we just did, just so you have a reference point here and maybe where we are going to go next. Red is what we're dealing with right now. So if we are conceptualizing our box over the D and G string, here we are in Dorian. However, our first shape stretches back toward the headstock, and that puts us just a tiny bit back in that Aeolian shape. Not a big deal. And as you see here, we've got the major triad. There it is with the 1-3-5. Our 4-3-2 triad because of the 4, 3, and 2 string where it's located. D, G, and B. Or here. Try using all my fingers there. So there's that. Now if I also play this one down below, I'm going to really nail that as basically once again the arpeggios in this key of C. Now I say we're in the key of C. If there's nothing else ringing out, I'm just playing alone, it's going to sound like the key of C. But if I ring a drone note out from the key of C, like if I ring a D out over these, I'm going to get a Dorian sound. If I ring the third note out, let's see that that's 1, 2, 2 again, 3, it's going to be Phrygian. If I ring the fourth note out of the scale, it's going to be Lydian. And the fifth note is Mixolydian. The sixth note is Aeolian, 7 Locrian, and back to the 1 Ionian, which the I looks like a 1. What do you know? So, moving on from there, I think that was reasonably explained. Now, once again, also, I freeform these lessons. I'm winging this off the top of my head. I'm pretty sure I got the information I want to say when I start the lesson. But if at any time you say, hey, there was one part that was, you really went too fast over that, or something, flag that part of the video and put it in your comment and say, can you slow this down or do something this? You've got any real quote unquote constructive criticism? That's a little take on a more of a kind of a jabbing comment that somebody made that later claimed that it was constructive feedback, which is fair. I mean, this is totally open for you to say what you want. And I have no claim that this lesson style I have is better than any other lesson or is the way to go or anything like that. And I'm pretty sure because of the way I, sometimes ramble and go off topic, there's some junk in my lesson. So, and it's very, very, very competitive, and it's getting more competitive every day. I cannot believe now how many guitar teacher channels there are versus what there were 5 years ago. So it's really, really competitive, and hey, that's the way it goes. But I know I have my way of teaching here, which I think is unique enough to give me some validity here, so that's why we keep going. That being said, and if you like what's going on here, check out the merch store, like, subscribe, all that stuff. I'll say that now so I don't have to ramble at the end of the lesson. The Buy Me a Coffee supports the channel in a direct way that could if you find this lesson worth it to you, if it's worth $1, throw $1, I guess is the way I'll put it. And that covers our costs, which we don't cover at all every month. I think I've actually had one person throw a tip in the jar. So thank you very much to that person in the UK that did that, Stefan. But we do have costs of subscription fees to run this thing. So, all right. Moving on. We have the next shape, and what we have here is you can see that we're using that shape from the G string here, which is going the other way. So in this regard, and And you can see they kind of sound like pairs. They have a different sound, but sound kind of complementary to each other in a real kind of way. And well, that's because they're coming. Both of those are basically you've just arpeggiated the two major 7 chords in a scale and a key. And in this case, we're doing C. And remember, this you can slide this anywhere up and down the fretboard and not have to worry about, well, is this one the G sharp with the A? What notes are in this key? You just this is where you can think pattern based and just move these things up and down. And I can do it up here. I don't have that shape down pat as much as I'd like, but there it is. Okay, so why I made both of these sheets the same, I don't know. But anyways, here we are on this one. We're going to move over. I guess we get to skip a sheet here onto... we get to see where we were. I guess I didn't have that on the last sheet. And this shape here. Now we're heading toward... Our thought process is going toward this shape here. I mean, and as a sort of... You could call this like the Dorian shape, because if you're in this shape here, but it has nothing to do. You could choose any tonal gravity, so it doesn't have to be Dorian. So that's optional if you want to do that. But it is in my mind, just because I've already named these shapes as they were taught to me a long, long time ago by a guitar teacher. So moving on to sheet number 8. We have our square is right here in our third and final pentatonic box before we loop back to the original shape, thereby covering our fretboard, and all we need to do is repeat that to go up or down. So here we are with our... And something... Mr. Jones, you do something wrong here. Yeah, somehow I messed up this. Do I correct it right here on the video? I guess I do. So we would have a 7-1, 3, and then our 5 is going to be here. I don't know what I was singing here. Screwed all that up. All right, let's see how fast I can do this. Watch this. We're going to go to gray. Gray all these out. Gray, Castle, Gray Skull, way after my childhood time. I'm old like that. We're going to go delete, 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 and now we're going to go 7, 1, 5. Cool, and I'll even throw the colors on there just to get this thing right. And it's going to take a couple click arounds here. So we got a green for our 5, and we put that green on the 7, didn't we? All right, our 7 is that purpley outer space color, and we're back to earth with our brown earthy root color here, which is going to be our root beer color. No, it's not root beer, but all right, so there we are back in business here. Now, as you can see here, we are in the shape here. This 5th string root was back in the Aeolian shape too. So when you just play one, they're ambiguous enough because there's an opportunity there. You could be playing the shape that's going to get you down in this key. Well, in this example, what we're doing here is going across the fretboard. We're staying in one key. But if I were to just think of these as a stack, the squares on top of each other directly. If I went down one, I would be changing keys. So, for example, if I played, the arpeggios both within this square, meaning we'll go to this sheet right here, and there's our second arpeggio in that Phrygian kind of shape, or whatever pentatonic major scale, pentatonic 3, or whatever the hell you want to go. And so yeah. Excuse me, we're swallowing here. Down into. Oh, so the final, there's like a little extra here. You could take that arpeggio shape that we just played, this, and go the other direction. And the purpose of doing this is getting us back into this original Aeolian box. So if we were to be right here, of course I played that wrong. Oh my God. There's the Aeolian shape. So, same as this. And I could have just slid there. Because that sounds cool too. By the way, when you do one of these arpeggios, slide into where you need to go. So, that being said, let's play around with some modal type of sounds there. And with this one, I guess the example was what I was talking about before. If we move straight up and down, and I found an example here in the key of C, so where if I played the square as an example, let's draw a border here. I don't know, where am I? All right, cool. We got a. So I could draw a border. Consider well, actually, if I just play that like the top of Dorian, and we didn't go over that either. Let's go back to that really quick. Here we are. Here's our Dorian shape. There is the bottom part of a square. As a technical, that is actually the bottom part of a larger square that would exist if you had a low B string on your guitar. There would be another square there, but there isn't. So there's only that top shape there in Dorian. But there's also this. And then this. So, but so it's kind of like just letting you know that why that there's like, if you played that 6-string root arpeggio, or the arpeggio starting on the 6th string as one, it's still ambiguous because it could be the root right above. So in this example here, it would be, because remember, this is in our square, this is always the root. By the way, it's another cool thing about this navigational square, that's always the Ionian, always the root of your major scale, the do in do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. So you can know, like, okay, for an example, if I was just playing that 6-string root, but I was in that Dorian scale, the parent key would be A. If I was playing, we're inside this blue box here, having 2 arpeggios, one starting at the D note, the other one on the G note, I would be in this D major. That would be in a D major parent scale, and same, so on and so forth. If I put the box down, so for example, just to like clearly draw it out, it would be here. And I know this gets a little confusing until for some people are going to have to like go over this 3 times and go, or maybe have a click moment with it. But I think when it does click, you'll say, oh, okay, it is that easy. And then, for example, C to F, down here, if I put my 2 arpeggios in there, my parent key would be, again, would be C like we were. But parent keys are just knowledge, or it could be if you wanted to be in Ionian. But let's choose, what do you guys want? Hearing you guys say, play something that maybe almost won't sound great. Phrygian. So in the key of C, we went over that's the E note, so we'll put a low E drone in. And I'll play those arpeggios from the key of C everywhere, and they will all, in each position, sound like Phrygian arpeggios, and I'll be able to go right into the scale because I know where I am. So let me go where, I'll bring you back to where, bring you back to 1971, and no, just kidding. I'll bring you back here. See, it's kind of haunting. Put my own E in there to help it out a little bit. That drone sound is a little weak. It would have been better with like a Rhodes piano sound or a Wurlitzer or something, but here we are with some random tone generator thing here. But anyways, there's the actual root of the E note of the mode we're in. I'll go back one. You see that's a gray note, so that's like a stepping stone. Not completely, because these aren't specifically E minor chord tones, which would be the actual, this would be the, you would be playing the arpeggio from here. You'd want to play the E arpeggio, E minor, to get the chord tones, and then know your chord tones and stepping notes in the scale. So that would be the. Anyways, we'll let's do some Dorian or Mixolydian. What do you guys think? Let's do some Dorian. Dorian's pretty cool. Roger Waters vibe here. Careful with that axe, Eugene. Yeah. Here, I'll scream. No. Have you ever seen? You guys out there ever seen Pink Floyd at Pompeii? That is an excellent film, and that is the one of the. That's the, I think, quintessential kick-ass version of Careful with That Axe, Eugene is on that. If you ever watch that, it's pretty funny with the screaming and the arpeggios, the fire coming out of where they were. They were in Italy, in Pompeii, but all right, we're talking about Pink Floyd at Pompeii. Outside the scope of our lesson. There's just noodling around in the scale. Scale tones. Scale tones with steps. Step. Tone. Root. Third. Step. 5. playing in, you know, noodling Dorian, but we'll stick with these arpeggios. Kind of a cool sound. And oops, that was wrong. See, I don't have that one down there. That would be suggesting a different key. I was looking at my screen here for this Aeolian shape. It may make more sense that I play. Well, I guess it's the same thing. That was from Out of the Blue. Disregard that last arpeggio. And that's this one. Might play that first, then this. Then noodle. Bends and hammer-ons. Hammer-ons out of nowhere. Like, what's that guy, Greg Howe? I don't know that style too well, but... Okay, so that is today's lesson. I just wanted to show you how you can stack these intervals and then also know your scale and pick a drone note to make a choice of drone notes in the key of C. If I played an F note, that would have turned everything into Lydian. And you know what the hell? Let's try that really quick here. Let's see, D, E, F, right? Whip right into them. So those are all the same arpeggios that sounded kind of darker a second ago, and now they sound like Lydian, a little lighter. Well, darker because they sounded more minor, but we stayed on the lighter side. We played Dorian and now Lydian, our lighter modes and moods. And I'm gonna say that, well, that was me explaining that the best I could, getting it, I think, better than I did 2 lessons ago. So the lesson before the lesson I just put out, which was about turning major chords into minor chords with the same shape. And I thank so much the people that let me know that someone said, hey, this is just the lesson I needed. Well, that is just awesome. I'm so glad that I could just shine a light on something that you needed to know or that you just thought was cool. That's great. Thank you guys for watching. I'm going to sign out now so you guys can click off too while I hit my buttons here to shut the screen off. And we thank you once again for watching our crazy channel here. And I'll see if I got my stop record button just right here. 3, 2, 1. That did not do it. Oh, it was S, I think.